I did want to actually speak upon the issue that was, and I think I can end on this one, where I had gotten kind of yoinked off on the last live stream, in terms of the clavicular incident and how that is causing, or how his life is getting impacted heavily and severely at this point ever since he has started his channel and what's been kind of going on at this point.
Being permanently banned on YouTube on several accounts, and getting hit with a potential career-ending lawsuit alleging battery and fraud. And unfortunately for him, he live streamed himself doing half of what the lawsuit is alleging. And after talking to a couple lawyers about it, they're very certain this will trigger a criminal investigation. And again, this comes on top of the already chaotic stretch that included, the live overdose in front of thousands of viewers, his management team walking out, some serious issues with his friends and family, and then on top of everything, losing all 3 of his YouTube channels. Meaning, the dude has to.
Now, it's kind of crazy how you can have the mindset of, and this is what I kind of highlighted in the previous live stream, but you're having the mindset of maximizing your looks, right? And focusing so heavy on your looks because that is the best way in order to gain the most leverage within society, because everything becomes easier when you look better, right? And there's obviously some truth to that, to a certain degree. However, there has to come a point where taking things to the extreme are going to affect you sooner rather than later, right? And I think a lot of people have been telling him that the methods that he has been using has been causing for a major effect in his health, in the potential health of future young adults, and how it's not going to just impact you now, but like you're going to be limiting your future, because you're going to put yourself in severe conditions that cause for your health to decline. It calls for your interactions with other people to decline because you're so focused on maximizing your looks. And it also causes for that financial incentive to get impacted because you're doing things to the extreme. Whenever you do things that are slightly extreme or can get built up to a point where you are unable to maintain the extreme forms of that situation, you're going to see the repercussions a lot sooner. And I think not only does this affect look maxing, but it also affects the individuals who are, let's say, doing the live streams, right? And they're trying to cause, or the nuisance streams as they call it, where they're trying to cause damage to properties, businesses, annoy those properties and businesses, cause pranks on those properties and businesses, and they eventually end up dead or in prison because you're putting yourself in these extreme conditions, in these very extreme high intensity situations that will lead you into a position where you're hurting yourself physically, or you're going to be getting into legal trouble, as we're going to go through in this video. So when we watch individuals on YouTube, on TikTok, on social media, we have to really keep in mind that those that are doing the extremes, like, it does not benefit you in the long run. And if you want to hit that life expectancy that humans are generally statistically starting to hit 75, 80, potentially 90 years old, as medicine and technology get better. As you get older, it's going to get better, right? If you want to start hitting those life expectancies, you can't be taking your life to the extreme. And I understand the whole YOLO principle and scenario, but you're also affecting those that are around you. It's not just about you sometimes. A lot of times it's really not just about you, and you need to understand that you're going to be affecting all those people around you. So
Stream to stay relevant now and keep his career, but with everything going on outside of his stream, that could prevent him from doing so. And his most recent trouble comes from a lawsuit that was filed in Florida on April 29, 2026, and this was filed by an influencer by the name of Alexandra Mendoza, who's also known as Alora Siva. According to the lawsuit, Alexandra first met Clavicular when she was 16 years old, and he allegedly paid her $1,000 to film content with him in May of 2025, framing it around the idea of making her the female face of looks maxing. She says that he sent an Uber to bring her to his parents' house in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where a party was happening, and the lawsuit claims alcohol was flowing heavily at the house and she got drunk. So from there, things allegedly went downhill, and she claims that after she got drunk and was in no position to consent, Braden was allegedly intimate with her, and even further alleges that she woke up to the following morning to him doing so again without her consent. And after that, the two apparently didn't speak for months, and when they eventually ran into each other again, Alexandra says that she still believed
It's just like this is part of the things that you put yourself in the position. Like, what do you, how do you even? And this is something that a lot of young men have to keep in mind nowadays as well, because listen, social media is something that is really not necessarily beneficial to you unless you're using it for business purposes or trying to grow a company or something that can actually help you in the future, right? Because what ends up happening is a lot of these people are just telling on themselves and causing for situations that just lead to more and more chaos in your life. Like I mean, there has been situations that, in high school that I had even been, um, I'd heard of, within the school. And I'm like, you guys really put yourself in that kind of position where if this thing comes to bite you back later on in life, like that's not a good look. That's not a good look, right? So you have to really analyze, especially at a young age, because the track record, especially on the internet, the track record that could follow you later on in life, and this is the impact that happens later on in life if you just do things with the YOLO mindset, like I only live once, like this is my time, this is my scenario that I'm gonna want to live. Like, you're going to be putting yourself in more and more danger early on that can then, even if you do end up living into your later years, can really affect you in the long term. And it's like, how are we not keeping these kind of things in mind when we're doing things?
that he could help with her career. So she accepted an invite to a streaming session. And this is when she alleges that Clavicular, at some point during the stream, injected her face with a fat dissolving compound called Aqualix, live on camera. And I mean, there's clips of this online. Now, if it really was the thing they said it was, nobody really knows for sure, except for them. So obviously this was live on camera, and she's saying without her permission and without him holding any medical license to perform such a procedure. And apparently he was also implying that the Walter White special had also been added to the injection, which is crazy if that's true as well.
Dude, I can already see clips. Clav injects.
Chat, we're looks maxing her. We're looks maxing her. It's all good. Dr. Clav? Yeah.
But obviously, Clavicular is no doctor. He's not having her sign consent forms and liability waivers to let him do this. So clearly, that live stream clip does not help his case whatsoever. And Alexandra said even though she continued seeing him because she still believed that he was working to help her career, that turned out to not be the case, as she claims that he eventually ran what she described as a campaign to damage her reputation, which she says cost her sponsorships. And the lawsuit lists battery, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and unauthorized use of her name and likeliness amongst its claims, and seeking damages of more than $50,000. His attorney, Steve Kramer, responded to the lawsuit by saying that they're aware of the complaint recently filed against Clav. However, He says that these are allegations only and remain unproven. Mr. Peters denies the claims and disputes the characterization of the events. He will respond through the appropriate legal channels and intends to vigorously defend himself, adding that they will not comment further at this time. And shortly after this lawsuit became public, Clavicular was also reportedly dropped by Stake, as he put out a statement on his Discord saying there is no Stake leaderboard anymore, we canceled it. And one
So here's something that I want to tell those that may not be familiar with a lot of the live streaming platforms, Kick and stuff like that. So Kick is essentially a streaming platform that has allowed for, that's where most of like the nuisance streamers, those with very extreme ideals, tend to stay, because it's a little bit of a smaller platform. However, it's growing to a certain degree, and it allows for them to do kind of whatever they want. There's not as many terms and conditions, especially compared to YouTube, as well as Twitch, even though Twitch has its own flaws currently. But YouTube is probably the most constricted terms and agreements policies that it has, in order to be able to stream, right? So with that being said, if you're going to have higher terms and agreements and conditions in order to stream on the platform, that means that you're going to have higher standards for those that can get sponsorships, ads, and as well as deals on YouTube, right? So you're not going to be sponsoring immoral things and things that don't necessarily align with your company's agendas, policies, and ideologies. However, Kick, on the other hand, is a more open-minded, free, less restrictions, no holds bar, wild wild west kind of streaming platform, and they are endorsed by Stake, and Stake is a gambling company, right? So if you're getting your endorsement money from the gambling company and the streaming platform that is sponsored by the gambling company, then you kind of see where I'm going with this. His money is going to start to dry up unless he's able to maintain a streaming regiment in order to sustain his life while going through this lawsuit. So, slowly and surely, his funds will begin to start to deteriorate because he's going through a lawsuit. He has to still stream because that's his only form of revenue since he got booted off of YouTube. At least on YouTube, you could potentially put up videos individually outside of your live streams, which is what I will probably be doing, in order for those that may not be able to catch the live stream. You put the video on YouTube, right? You let that, build the views, build the comments, build the attention, and you start to build the revenue in that way. So at least you may be getting revenue from your previous content, or even, some of the new drops that you would have from your live stream that people weren't able to see at the time that you were live. So now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because the company that endorses your streaming platform doesn't endorse you anymore. You have to stream on that platform and rely on donations and whatever the streaming platform provides you in terms of finances. Granted, he does have, certain people on retainer in order to keep his attention up on certain platforms like Kick, TikTok, Instagram, because he gets a lot of those clippable moments. But dealing with a lawsuit on top of all of this is going to impact his ability to produce at a high level. And it's just going to continue to constrain. And as we just saw earlier, he just had an overdose, right? So now you're telling me you've just recently came off an overdose, right? And you have these constraints financially now. How is that level of stress going to affect you in order to even stream, as well as in order to just sustain yourself within all this craziness? These are what extremes get you. This is what pushing yourself to the limit really gets you.
could only assume that would be a
And the worst part is, The worst part is his popularity, like his peak popularity, at least in terms of when I've actually discovered him, has only been for about a year. Like I think I remember seeing a video or two of him in like honestly for me it might have even been shorter than that. It might have been like maybe 6 months. Because I think the first video that I think I saw of him was maybe October of 2025. So I'm thinking it was really only 6 months as to when I actually found out who he was and looks maxing and all of that stuff actually becoming like a legitimate issue trend. I think that's maybe when he started doing his first news interview. I'm not sure. But in only a year, you went from being the looks maxer guy, pumping yourself with drugs, partying all the time, getting all the girls, doing craziness, to potentially ending up in jail for a long time.
Major financial source of income for him. And even though these are only allegations, and of course, none of it has been proven, some parts of the filing describe behavior that Alexandra says that she witnessed firsthand. One example is her claim that before the stream began, she once saw Clavicular and a group of others using a white powdery substance, which she says she immediately declined when it was offered to her. Now, the reason that detail kind of stands out is it
the fact that you mentioned Cybertruck, it also reminded me of something for this kid. He actually ran somebody over on stream with his car and just proceeded to keep driving after clearly running somebody over with his car. Like this is the kind of guy that's trying to teach your kids to maximize their looks. Because you have to keep in mind, I mean, granted it is on Kick, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the younger minds to get a hold of it. But I know there's a lot of preteens and teenagers that are on the internet that are definitely watching these nuisance streams, as well as these guys like Clavicular, and are taking those ideologies and like, yeah, like I gotta make sure I do this. I gotta leverage this because of this, that, and the third. And seeing around what's going on in society, relationships, socially, and how men are treated, these young boys are like, well, I gotta make sure I looks max, bro. I gotta make sure I just maximize everything now, because what's gonna matter in 10, 15 years? I'll be able to outgrow it. I'll be able to do what I gotta do as long as I get all my successes now. Where it's really about the journey and how you build upon your journey in order to get to the point of success where you can properly enjoy it, right? But the mindset that it has to be right now, I have to maximize everything right now, is what leads you to, after a year of being on top of the world, to now potentially under the world in jail. Like, it's not good.
Creates a natural link for more recent public footage involving Clavicular, as just a few weeks ago, Clavicular and his friends, including another looks maxing TikToker, were walking around a mall area in Brickell, Miami, IRL streaming. Clavicular definitely seemed off. His speech was very slurry, and he was definitely struggling to pull off conversations.
Holy what's up, man? How are you? What's up, man? Holy sure. What's it say? 100%. Guess no.
Can you take it?
Can I take it? Sorry, I can't even.
Homeboy is cooked. Homeboy is so cooked.
I'm absolutely gone.
Then kept repeating that he was destroyed and he was doing his best to stay functional.
Sorry. I'm trying my best to lock in, but I'm a little destroyed right now. Holy dude, I'm trying my best, but.
So he sat down, he started swaying, and within a short amount of time, things did not look good whatsoever. Because that's when it became clear to everyone watching that he was ODing.
What's up, guys? Where's somewhere I can sit down for a second? Oh my god. Holy.
Oh, that was the OD. I didn't even see the full OD video.
What? No, W. Dude, I'm gone. Oh my god, Leslie. Holy.
I have another IRL streamer by the name of Androgenic who honestly has a whole lore to himself. Honestly, that's just
That
another video.
hairline is
But regardless,
looking
I mean, he's
wicked.
sitting there, he doesn't know what to do, so he offers him a stimulant. And that's, I guess, around the time when the cameraman realized, uh-oh, something's really wrong, so he panned away from Clavicular, and the stream then cut.
You want natty? You want natty? You want an addy?
So once the stream ended, people were like, okay, what just happened? What caused this to happen? So in the hours that followed, people actually started going through the stream footage and clips, piecing together what Clav and his circle had been taking. And apparently they were going crazy about the pentastack, which is just a whole plethora of substances I can't even say here on this channel. But one of the substances here has a very unforgiving margin. At lower doses, it produces kind of a euphoric and loose feeling that some people compare to alcohol without calories, which you may guess is the reason why it became popular in the looks maxing community. But I guess the gap between working as intended and dangerous is really pretty narrow. And it narrows further when you combine it with a whole bunch of other stuff, which means at a certain point, it stops being recreational and starts affecting your breathing until you pass out. And earlier from the stream, Clav appeared to be drinking this from a small bottle. And apparently this is something that's normally dosed in capfuls. And this guy's just drinking it straight from the bottle. So clearly he was having a little bit more than that intended amount. And then he was also talking about having something he called blue throughout the night, which a lot of people are speculating to be the Walter White special, though honestly it's hard to say what exactly that could be because we can only speculate. But either way, whatever combination he had was bad, and he ended up ODing on it. And after the stream went dark, Androgenic then later explained on Twitter what happened in the moments that followed. And by his account, the shift went from worrying to serious in just a few seconds. Clav went from speaking to being unresponsive almost instantly, and the group made the call to get him out of there and get him to the hospital. And there was footage of Clav being carried out of the venue by his security and loaded up into a black SUV. And TMZ also shared a recording of a call from Miami EMS dispatchers mentioning a 20-year-old male overdose at a South Miami Avenue address where the stream had taken place.
Rescue 16 trying to respond, 20-year-old male overdose. Rescue 16 trying to respond, 20-year-old male overdose.
And what followed was his parents were reportedly informed, and his father, who lives in New Jersey, was now heading straight to Miami. And by the following morning, Clav had been discharged and was back home. And he posted a selfie with his face scraped up from the mask and addressed the whole situation. And he said the substances had been his way of managing what he described as the difficulty of being in
The irony of his face getting all messed up out of this is actually so crazy. Like, you do all that. You do all that in order to maximize your looks, in order to say that you can get all the girls, in order to say that you're making millions of dollars and you're big baller and all this stuff. And at the end of it, you're facing a lawsuit. You're facing all of your financial capabilities to be limited and constricted. And you're going to have to actually look yourself in the mirror and see the damages directly and what they've really caused you in just a short amount of time. It's just so ironic, like just like that big. Actually, let me just go back to it, just so that we can see. Where is it?
who lives in New Jersey, was now heading straight to Miami. And by the following morning, Clav had been discharged and was back home. And he posted a
Like, look at his face. No.
we can only speculate. But either way, whatever combination he had was bad, and he ended up ODing on it and getting him to the hospital. And those footage of Clav being mess dispatchers mentioning a 20-year-old male
overdose.
selfie with his face.
Like, look at his face. This whole area just cut. Under here, cut. You could probably see some slight swelling over here in his cheeks. Like, look at, like, just direct impact, directly affecting what your brand is and what you try to stand for. Tonight was definitely an interesting night. We had some big variety of different things that are honestly really extreme. And it's starting to get to a point where the extremes are trickling into every little aspect of our lives. And it's like, how do we end up here? And there's always going to be extremes covered in the news because obviously that's what makes news. But how are these little impacts affecting us? How are these little incidences causing for individuals to either want to be a part of the community and do things the right way, right? And attack things head on and want to go through the trials, tribulations, and to properly contribute to the community? And what are those that are trying to escape, trying to run away, trying to maximize themselves in order to escape the longevity of what life is and um, really try and help and impact the community and just deciding to live for themselves? Indulgence, greed, and wanting to take everything and not give back what's really needed. So this was a fun live stream. I definitely enjoyed um, watching a lot of these videos with you guys. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. We're going to try and make sure that we're doing this weekly, and we'll probably hit a gaming show. I'll probably put a gaming show up weekly as well, so we can really focus on gaming as well as the media, so we can get a little bit of both, and we're not leaving out the full components of what it means to be a glitched philosopher. All right. I'm gonna try and put the links to all the videos that I've used today into the description below. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and stay glitched.